More and more things enter our field of vision. There's more and more perception. We keep getting closer and closer and closer. I imagine everybody knows where we're going. I imagine all of us gathered in the wilderness, having left Egypt, know where we are going. Certainly, Moses knows from the very outset, from the first time he sees a bush that's burning and isn't burning up, that they are these people whom he will rescue from Egypt, are destined to serve their God, worship their God on this particular mountain where he is now standing, eyes shielded from the bush that's burning and isn't burning up. That bush in Hebrew is called Sneh. The mountain is called Chorev. But when God says, you will come and serve me on this mountain, everybody understands that the word Sneh, which means a little scrubby bush, is the same as the word Sinai. And it is no accident that the ark goes from Moses at Sinai in front of the Sneh to Egypt, and then back to Sinai, where he and the people fulfill that destiny of accepting, acknowledging, serving, as it were, their God in front of this other mountain. We are now a little bit more than halfway there as we count the days between Egypt and Sinai, from the second day of Passover until Shavuot. And I imagine things become clearer and clearer to us as we take a step forward and forward and forward. As we learn how to live in community, as we learn how to accept each other, how to deal with people who are bold enough and brave enough to be free, or to try to be free, not to be enslaved anymore to ideas, or bound and encumbered by somebody else's version of what your destiny is to be, but moving towards a place where you, as part of a community, will have to summon the courage to say, yes, I cast my lot with these people, and that's what's going to happen at Mount Sinai. What exactly revelation looks like, the revelation at Mount Sinai, what shape it takes, how it appears, is a matter for rabbinic imagination, or a kind of biblical fullness, I suppose, or biblical, I should say the opposite, biblical limitation. The Torah only says what it says. The rabbinic imagination fills all of the white spaces, informed by, of course, the images and imagination that we bring with us. What do you think revelation is? What's been revealed to you? I don't mean by a divine revelation, but by a moment. Maybe it has been teasingly pedestrian and maybe even predictable. Maybe because of a sequence of events, you just knew that so-and-so was going to be on the phone the next time the phone rang. I don't know, is that a revelation? Is that a surprise? How would you classify it? How about a deep insight into something? I seem to be having them all the time now as I live my life in the presence of a disease that makes mortality a snugger fit for me. As many times as I have walked through this with other people, when I am both the docent and the exhibit, I am both in the gallery and also showing people through the gallery. I oftentimes will say to myself, oh, that's why it works, or that's how it works. It doesn't matter that I've seen it so many times, because there's something brand new about seeing it when you are really inside it. So revelation takes many forms. Sometimes, as I say, it's very pedestrian and particular, and that makes us scratch our heads, because we have this grand story about revelation, which seems to be coming only from the outside. But for rabbis, for sages and poets, for daring imaginers and imaginations throughout the centuries, there has always been a question of, what does this really look like? What does this moment entail? How much does it actually open up for us? We're going to take a look at two versions. One, a modern one by a poet whose name is Rivka Miriam. I think at this point, I don't know, it just occurred to me, maybe I'll count them up, maybe I won't, but it may be that I have translated more and put into play more Rivka Miriam poems than Yehuda Amichai poems. Wow. It's just possible. It's just possible. At this particular point, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm gonna make the count, I think, sometime soon. I'm working on a couple more Rivka poems right now, and then I will let you know. Rivka Miriam is a very accessible and wonderful poet, accessible in a personal way. She lives on Emek Rifaim in the German colony, if you are a Jerusalem person, and lives in one of those old 1900s, late 1800s Templar houses that everybody covets. And she will knock on her door, she will open it. Tell her that we're friends, she will let you in and make you a cup of tea probably. And you'll be able to see the stunning artwork on her walls, literally from ceiling to floor. She is an artist. And when I say literally from ceiling to floor, that's what I mean, because there are, I guess you would call them frescoes or and other kinds of art presentations that are actually on the walls all over the place. You might see the preparation for her next chavruta, for her next study group, which might well be with David Grossman, the Israeli novelist. Although they are on very different sides of the political spectrum, they share the deep destiny that comes with being an Israeli and a common heritage and love for land and people, and they study Bible together. She prepares and studies for many of her other chavrutot right there in the same room. The list of who's who is extraordinary, but no need to go through that right now. She is very accessible. All political roadways, paths, poetic ideas. She is 68 or 69 years old, and she has been publishing poetry since she was a teenager. Her collected poems have been followed already by, I want to say, 4 subsequent volumes. And I suspect that she's just at the beginning of something new. Well, we're going to take a look at one of her poems and then do what I really love to do, which is to arc back to a midrash, to a rabbinic imagining from an earlier century that I hope will make some of the same strings reverberate for you. So here we are standing at Mount Sinai when Rivka takes over and begins narrating. Maestro, maybe we can take a look at the poem. What do you think? All right, we just need to make it a little smaller. Smaller, so that people can get it on their screen. Ah, that looks promising. Let's go to the English and then we'll come back to the Hebrew. The English should be right below. Whoop. No, that's the Midrash. That's the rabbinic text. We can back up. There's the Hebrew poem, and right below it, 6 lines of Hebrew. Yes, the semblance of mountain. And we just want the English and a little bit smaller.
Okay, that's all I have for the English, just this one
The
Right?
6 lines.
Yes, it's just too far to one side for us.
Oh,
Needs to
okay,
be
just, it looks
centered.
fine to me. So I'll, like that, it's better?
You
Go
can't see,
down.
go to the English, a
I
little
don't know why
farther.
it's so big on our screen.
It's interesting because it looks fine to me. So you want me to go down farther?
Go down, we can only see the Hebrew, I think.
So I need to go here this way?
It's
Yeah.
showing up completely on my screen, Stephen Sibi. You guys may
Okay.
need to change your
Yeah, I
view.
think you have a different view than all of us.
Yep. Okay.
All
hold
right,
on.
sorry.
Okay. Now it's too small and hold on.
No.
Go to your view options. It's right next to the green
No, I
line.
have it. I'm trying to figure out which one is the best viewing.
It says,
Fit the window.
say fit to screen, fit for window.
It's the
Okay.
first option.
Yeah,
Yes, it's too small now for us. So
so go to 100%.
can I do that?
Yeah,
Yes, you can.
view option,
75, yeah. Yes, you can.
view option.
Yeah, I did that.
I know, do it again. 100%. Oh, sorry.
And then with a cursor, you can move it.
Okay,
Got it.
let's go.
Yes, thank you. This,
Thank you all.
The semblance of mountain returned to Sinai, even as the visions remained in Moses' ears, and in his eyes the shofar and thunder sounded still, and the 60 myriad of their faces remained buried, trembling against his chest, the touch still in their nostrils, the sense of taste still in their hands, and then, like opening a sack or a purse, the Torah loosened her knots before them, with her letters slowly blotting confusion from their expression, as with a kerchief. We might have done well to read Exodus chapter 20, the beginning of it, or the middle of Exodus chapter 20 before this, but we didn't. We started just with the poem. Exodus chapter 20 in the middle will tell us about the people as they react to the 10 commandments, which come at the beginning of that chapter. But we'll stay with the poem. The semblance of mountain returned to Sinai, even as the visions remained in Moses' ears, and in his eyes the shofar and thunder sounded still, and the 60 myriad of their faces remained buried, trembling against his chest, the touch still in their nostrils, the sense of taste still in their hands. And then, like opening a sack or a purse, the Torah loosened her knots before them, with her letters slowly blotting confusion from their expression, as with a kerchief. I wonder whether you can get up Exodus chapter 20 on the other computer. Never
For
mind.
you?
Mhm. Well, what's grabbing your attention here? Let's start that way.
The senses are all mixed up.
The senses are all mixed up.
Taste, sense of taste in your hands, sense of touch in your nostrils.
Yeah.
Do you think that could be tongue in cheek or sense of humor?
What do you think?
And is it like an epiphany,
Let's-
maybe? A revelation like an epiphany?
Tongue in cheek, sense of humor.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't see it. Any other possibility? I don't see those particular.
Well, there's a real phenomenon called synesthesia, which means one sense is stimulated by input into another sense. And that's what's happening here. So it it suggests to me sort of the significance of the moment. Like there is something that is so significant happening that the senses are, if not overwhelmed, then open in ways that they aren't usually open.
Right. Am I doing this
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I agree with Lori. I feel like when a sense is, when you have an overwhelming sensation of a sense, you feel it in all of your senses. To me, that's, I don't know if that's normal, but I've had that experience when something is so strong and overwhelming. And to me, that's explains it.
Doesn't the Torah text say that we heard the lightning and saw the thunder? And this is an extension into some additional senses that are not mentioned.
I put the verse in the chat. So it's verse 18 from chapter 20. If people open the chat, they can see it.
Right, right. Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for both comments. When people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself and we will listen, but do not have God speak to us or we will die." They're so worried about, they're frightened, their circuit burnt right out. They will not be able to survive this infusion of, I don't know, I almost said information, but that would be selling it short.
Stimulation?
Stimulation, yeah.
An infusion of sensation.
Infusion of sensation.
It's like sensational.
Yes.
I love the part, like the fourth line. It's like the sense we usually, the touch is in the nostrils and and as opposed to in the hands, and the taste is still in their hands. It's what Earl started with, you know. There's a transfer of the sensation to another organ of sense. You know, it reminds me of like listening to, like being at a rock concert, and you feel it in your whole body. You know, it's not just the ears, but you feel it in your whole body, and yeah. So.
The transferring of one sense to another, the overflow, the overload of one sense into another, that one sense imparts one way of knowing into another sense. And all of those things open up at the same time. When they all open up at the same time, what are you going to do? How are you going to feel? Are you feeling so fragile that you might just wink out at any moment? Are you so full that you can't be any more full than that?
It seems that by experiencing this confusion of senses, the people force the Torah out of hiding, in a sense. They compel the letters to come and comfort them, to take away some of that confusion and to undo its knots, because without the letters doing that, I think the Torah remains incomprehensible. So they have to, the people make themselves vulnerable and in this wilderness of confusion. And that provides the opening for the Torah to be revealed to them.
Thank you for bringing us the last two lines, the closing lines of the poem. With all of these senses still confused, then, like opening a sack or a purse, the Torah loosened her knots before them, with her letters slowly blotting confusion from their expression, as with a kerchief. Somehow this needs to be made linear. It needs to be scripted. It needs to be written out letter by letter, verse by verse. Otherwise, it's not comprehensible to us.
So the phrasing is blotting confusion,
Yes.
which is different than causing confusion. So the letters magically spill. If you have a person, you have coins in it and they all empty out and they're all magic and they all come together in lots of different ways with lots of different possibilities because the Torah's opened up. Here it is, guys. Here's your chance.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the lovely way, seconded by Lori, that you just said that, David, and that Harlan just continued. We're stuck in this whirl of sensation. The sensate moment, the sensed moment is overflowing one into the next, into the next, into the next. And there is no over narrator. There is no way for us to actually narrate this experience, for us to say the experience. We can only be the experience or be in the experience. And we need a way of transporting that. Maybe that's in some ways what Revelation is all about, at least as far as we tell the story. It's about being able to have some transportable, some transferable, some transmittable version of a story that of a revelation that we can relate, that it once has a syntax about it and is also ecstatic at the same time. And I use that that Latin taxis in both directions. Taxis, ex taxis would mean out of context, text. It's the same word, I think. In any event, taxis is that kind of connection, and ex taxis is breaking that connection, and syntax is the way through which we normally make sense of things. If we don't have any syntax, then we're all in this ecstatic mode where hands and fingers and eyes and ears and taste buds and so on are all, they're all together and they're all getting something from one another. But how do you transmit that? And how would you transmit it beyond yourself?
Rabbi, I have a,
Yes.
I have a thought about that. Two things. One is prior to the descent from the top of the mountain with the Ten Commandments in his hands, Moses is kind of removed from his people, and the people, in a sense, have either abandoned him and his God, or rejected him and have reverted to a kind of more kind of orgiastic kind of behavior and community. And then he comes down, and I think part of what this reflects is this utter shock and confusion with a sudden realization of the power of God as in the hands of Moses. And so it's almost like people speaking in tongues. They've lost the normal rhythm of their senses. The other thing that occurs to me is that it's clear from many lines of evidence that memory and learning are far better imprinted when it is coupled to an emotional event or something that touches you emotionally. And so this fear, this sudden dramatic fear and utter shock, I think it must have been astonishing and shocking to the people on the ground, would have imprinted the power of the laws really firmly. And
yes, wouldn't you think so? Yeah, thanks for making that connection between the ways in which things get imprinted in an emotional moment. It is as though, in fact, not as though, forget the as though, we do remember things through various categories of perception. Yeah, when I smell boxwoods, I can see the entrance to my godmother's house. And I know that the door is unlocked and that I'm always able to come in, and that she's always going to be in the backyard, even though she's decades, you know, she's always in the backyard. When I see certain things, I hear certain things in other parts of my being. I suppose we could all tell those kinds of stories. Yeah, but the emotional undergirding of it, the emotional sub-narrative is an extremely important one. And yeah, go ahead.
I keep being struck by the opening of a purse and the letters of the Torah falling out, and the knots of the Torah. You know, we wrap the Torah and we have whatever that ribbon of fabric is that we use to bind it before we put on the cover. And then you open the scroll after you take out the knots, and there are the words.
Wow.
And they come right at to the people, to the whole congregation, for them, for their power. They own it.
Harlan, let me tell you what you just did for me here in my probably in my head. I'm writing in purple ink that you gave me. I'm writing in the margin of a notebook with one of my favorite fountain pens. Chinese fountain pens are very interesting, by the way. They make very good fountain pens very cheaply. Harlan and I share a love of fountain pens and also of purple ink. But I'm making a note in one of my notebooks right now to actually make a Torah binder that enlists in its service Rivka Miriam's verse. Like opening a sack or a purse, and the Torah loosened her knots before them with her letters, slowly blotting confusion. Because when we roll the scroll open and read it, and then we have our rabbi, or we have the collective voices of people in the community who unpack and expand the Torah and make it a living document, it's way more than the sum of its written parts. But then we close it back up again, and we have to put it away for another week, you know, and we put it away for another week. It's going to be linear again when we open it, or we're going to have to start that whole business once again. So I'm feeling like there needs to be a Torah mantle or a Torah binder, anyway, I should say, that ribbon that says the Torah loosened her knots before them with her letters slowly blotting confusion. As we put the Torah back and we go back into that linear place.
There's a wonderful either painting or drawing by the artist Mark Podwall with the open Sefer Torah and the letters literally falling out as they would from an open purse.
Yes.
I'll look for it. I'll look for it and send it to you. But I'm struck by the watery imagery because, you know, the smoke and fire are the elements that I have always associated with this event. The scene, if I'm reading, I'm not sure if I'm reading, is the word marit, is that what's translated as semblance?
Yes.
So that's watery, right?
Yeah.
It's
No.
water. No,
the root is to see.
Oh, to see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was associated with, as in Miriam or
I
waters.
see.
I was associating it with waters, and then that comes back with the
Miriam.
blotting.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Misreading.
That's not the same, but
Okay.
it's worth bringing our attention to that word, because when Rivka begins her poem, she's quite the clever, insightful poet. She can't describe what can't be described. And poets are always on the edge of despair because they're always trying to describe something that really can't be described. She has here turned away from that possibility, and she's saying the semblance of mountain returned to Sinai, and something has come before it. There was a moment when the mountain was so ripply. I don't know, I use this rather plain image of the heat of the desert making the mountain look like ripples, you know, but in all kinds of ways, stretched out through time and space, the mountain has lost the sense and the integrity of mountain. It's not mountain anymore, but she brings us back just as the mountain is returning. We're just starting to get it once again.
You know what it feels like is when your Netflix movie starts pixelating and everything turns all these crazy colors and the sound goes nuts and, you know, all these things are happening. Your senses are all turned away and all of a sudden everything returns. It's like these people are trembling. They don't know what's going on. I don't know if we talked about the trembling against his chest. They're all tight. They're all hugging. They're all, you know, tied in knots themselves. And then at the end, the mountain returns. People start to realize, maybe this is going to be okay. And they loosen up like the purse strings, you know, just everybody's starting to think, okay, now we have to live our lives. Where are we going to go from here? Just feels like there's this tension that is easing throughout the whole poem.
Yeah, and noticing that tension at the end is feminine and motherly, like wiping away a tear from their face is just beautiful, the way it shifts there. And even the use of the word for purse. Is that let's see, tachat? Is that purse? Tachat. It's got and it's got tachat. They're under the.
No, that's not the same word though. Something weird has happened with the with the Hebrew.
Hold on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was thinking of that image of the untying of the knots as part of kind of the process of absorbing experience and transforming it into understanding.
Transforming it into understanding that we can grasp. Thank you, Susan. Devorah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but our Hebrew, the screen had been cut off, and that did look like tachat and not tachat.
Well, no, I see that it's tachat, but just it has tachat in it.
Right.
But it's I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
That they're under the mountain. The people tachat. The people are under the mountain.
Oh, I see. So you're making a kind of
a pun. Yeah.
Pun on that.
What do you guys make of 60 myriad? I mean, usually 60 is not myriads. It's very explicit.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
600,000 is the number that they're after. And biblically, sometimes sometimes it's called 60 myriad.
Got it. Great.
It's a very interesting image still of something that is so hugely expansive. This is the chest. This is the rib cage of Moshe Rabbeinu, you know.
The 60,000 people.
They're all able to, they're all burying their heads, you know.
They're all there.
Why? Because go back to Exodus chapter 19, that Shella 18 and 19, that Shella so thoughtfully brought to us in the chat. The people say to God, wait a minute, you talk to us, otherwise we're going to be undone. We're going to be electrocuted. Moses, my Bible teacher from rabbinical school used to say, well, this was the predicament. Everybody else was almost electrocuted. Moses was electrified. That's the way you say it. Moses just got stronger. This is the difference between the prophet and everyone else, that everyone else would have been short-circuited, would have been electrocuted, but Moses is electrified. And everyone is burying his and her head against the chest of Moses in order to not have to look at this. And this is all being done while the touch is still, while their senses are still confused. The touch is.
This reminds me a little bit of what we were talking about on Saturday with the four rabbis in the orchard, and they come. I'm trying to remember how Rabbi Graber put it, but that they come very close to the veil, and three of them don't survive that experience.
Not intact anyway, right?
Yeah.
Right, right. How close can you actually come? If you go back at some point when you get a chance to pour yourself a glass of your favorite beverage and you have a Bible close by, read Exodus chapter 19 and chapter 20, you'll see more than a few hints about how deep and how dangerous is this place, this transition place, this threshold that you cannot cross. We are still deeply in the world of doorways and thresholds. Here the people are, the opportunity is knocking, so to speak, but in what way are they supposed to answer the call? They can't go up the mountain. And as passionate as they might be, I really want to see you, that's just going to get you dead. Really want to see you. It's just like the sons of, this is Nadab and Abihu. These are the sons of Aaron, I'm willing to risk it all to just be knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. I don't know. We'll do like we'll pretend we're at Woodstock or something, Adina.
I'm struck by two different experiences that happens in sequence, and they don't happen at the same time, I think. And one is the explosion of sensations and feelings and emotions, pyrotechnic, with the presence of God and Moshe, of Moshe representing God. And then the Torah, when the Torah comes and releases its letters, it has a calming experience, and it's sequential. It happens after the whole pyrotechnics that are so scary. And you hinted at that each week we need to come back to the linearity of the calming. So the Torah, the content of what this is all about is actually calming. And what is explosive is the preamble to that. And it's very striking. I'm not sure that I fully make sense of it. I mean, I understand the words and I understand the concept, but the ultimate goal is actually soothing and calming. And what precedes it is this income. I don't even have words. Rivka Miriam has better words than I do. But that explosion.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And thanks for tucking the experience safely away behind the beginning of her poem. There's something that happens before the poem and that she can't explain because she's standing there at the base of the mountain with everyone else. She can't explain it and doesn't try to. She only understands the phenomenon of revelation after the fact. She understands the reverberations of it and she presents them to us, and they are calming in a certain way. Thank heavens we have this way of tracing our existence, of following our own existence as a people. And every so often we're lucky enough to catch ourselves in the crowd before we can look back. This is a story that's my story, let's say, or encompasses me. That's how it is that we make very good use of the Torah. And then, of course, we expand it again and take it from one sense into the next and into the next. That's the rabbinic project, I think, is to make Sinai appear, as it were, again, in that non-linear, or to take place in that non-linear place. Well, let's leave her poem behind for a minute or two or 10 and go to the...
Rabbi Sager?
Yes.
Could I just say one thing before we go on? It's
Yes, of course.
Stephanie.
I know. Who else could it be?
I know. I've got I'm on sort of, anyway. Doesn't there have to, the people didn't run away, did they? With all this thunder and everything, there must have been like a yearning in them, a prerequisite to all this that was pre-existing, some yearning that was just in the people before all of this. Otherwise, wouldn't you just run away, hide, flee, whatever?
Don't you think? Wouldn't that be a reasonable impulse? It feels that way to me, and I want to say it feels that way deeply to the sages of the early centuries who told the story and expanded it beyond Exodus chapter 19 and 20, expanded it into this life of revelation that they knew full well was way bigger than the text. We could find, I could bring it to you another week. That there are angels, says one teacher, who descended and stood behind each person in Israel, holding him and her in place so that he or she did not turn around, turn tail, and run away because this was too frightening a moment. That's exactly what you're saying. And it comes to us from teachers who, you ask me, do they really believe that this is literally true? And I would say no. They don't believe that it's literally true or that it's a literal fact, but they do believe that it's true. That people wanted to turn tail and run, and that somehow didn't. And that's what made them distinguished, distinctive, different from others. Made them so unique.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's look. We get to go back a number of centuries, at least to the early Muslim times, 7th, 8th, 9th century, when this particular version of the rabbinic fantasy before us appeared. Someone who says, never mind what came before, but apparently there is something before, because there is a what is more. At the moment when the Holy One, blessed be he, began to speak, all that is above and all that is below began to tremble, and the Israelites could not stay on their feet. What did the Holy One, blessed be he, do? He sent 2 angels to each and every one of Israel. One angel put a hand on that person's heart so that his soul not leap out, and one lifted that person's face so that he might see his creator. Yet another version, Stephanie, of what you asked about and what I just created or just told you. You got to keep your eyes focused on what they can't see. And we have to keep your soul from leaping out of your body, or you're going to be destroyed. And the Holy One, blessed be he, allowed them to gaze at his presence. And they could see in his presence the voice that came forth and circled around to their ears. The word itself saying, will you accept the Torah that contains 248 shall commandments that correspond to the number of your limbs? And they replied, yes, yes. Then the word returned from the ear and kissed each mouth. Then the word returned again from the mouth to encircle the ear, saying, will you accept the Torah that contains 365 shall not commandments corresponding to the days of the year, the solar year? Israel replied, yes, yes. Then the word returned from the ear and kissed the mouth, as it is written, let him kiss me with kisses of his mouth. Here is a rabbinic teacher who wants so much to bring us a verse from the Song of Songs. This terrifying moment is captured in the great love song of the people of Israel. Imagine, just taste that. You know, let that roll around from your head down to your taste buds. Immediately, the Holy One, blessed be he, opened for them the 7 heavens and the 7 earths and said, look, you are my witnesses that there is none like me in the heights or in the earth. See, I am one, and I am revealed to you in and with all my presence and my splendor. If someone says to you, go on, serve other gods, you can say to him, could there possibly be a person who has seen his creator face to face in all his glory, his splendor, and his might, who has then set him aside and gone to alien worship? Look, I have redeemed you from oppression. I am the one who split the sea before you and brought you through it on dry ground while drowning your enemies in the sea. This is like a scene, like a moment out of Fantasia, you know, where the letters are jumping out of the saxophone or something. I don't know, I'm dating myself. There are probably tons of movies that do that. There's a scene in The Simpsons that I'm remembering. It's doing that when Lisa's playing the saxophone. But the voice is so vital that it is apparent to them. It appears to them. And it circles around and it whispers to each and every one of them. And then it goes back to God and brings their affirmative answer. Yes, we accept this. And yes, we accept this. And the angels step up and make it clear that you can look, at least for this moment, and you can see with your head raised. And the other one, with hand over now, I will not let your soul jump out of your body. I won't let you just burn up. This isn't people just fainting away because Elvis has started singing, and you know, wherever it was that Elvis was singing, you know, the Ed Sullivan Show or the Beatles in Yankee Stadium, let's say. It's not that. This is a forever losing it. Well, I don't know what. Do you see this? You see the way in which this midrash and plenty of its ancestors, ancestral midrashim, are in the same line as Rivka Miriam?
Person, something about person's heart. I don't know what she's asking. Teresa.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? A connection between this and the poet. Do you see it?
Well, for one, there is connection with the organs of the senses, you know, and all other parts of the body too, you know, the heart, the face, the eyes, and the word comes to the ear, and then it goes to the mouth and comes back again. So there's ways to reach. There is a reaching of the people who are listening and present through their senses. For one.
Thank you. Yeah.
Really sweet way. I mean, to have the Song of Songs there, you know, that part, that, I mean, it couldn't be sweeter.
All of that unpacking and repacking of the senses, or the hakafa, you know, the word, as it were, the vital word, not the written word, but the vital, spoken word that that travels around from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and informs so deeply and is taken in through all of the senses. This midrash keeps all those senses intact and tries to tell us a story, a fantasy story about how it is that they would all stay intact. Rivka is less interested in telling us that kind of story, but certainly all of the senses are implicated in it, and all of the senses contribute to this kind of knowing.
And the word itself, like the letters, creates this intimate, comforting, nursing connection with these awestruck people. Whereas God at the end is the mighty warrior, as opposed to the comforter. It's interesting how the Torah itself is the comforter, the softer side of God. But God is justifying, his worship by what he's done in terms of mighty deeds.
Yes.
It's kind of a disconnect almost between God and Torah, unless we can hold both simultaneously.
Well, that's an interesting challenge also. Can we hold both simultaneously? Lori, your hand is up.
Yeah, so the thing that really captured me in this passage is about the association of one set of commandments with all of the limbs of the body and the other set of commandments with all of the days of the year. And it makes me think about Heschel and how he talks about how important time is. And so while this sort of otherwise would be an out of body experience of revelation, is also at the same time the content of that, and the way that we're being held in this description is we're being grounded in the physical, in our physical bodies, and also grounded in time.
Thank you. So that which would have otherwise been ecstatic, is now quite in a context that can be spoken. Yeah, Harlan.
I'm struck by there's a rhythm. There's the voice, and the voice becomes a word. And the word becomes a question that is here. This word actually means 613. And then there needs to be the action that says yes. And then you kiss each other. And so, although it's a different reference, I think of the kiss of not the kiss of death, but God breathing life into people through their nose, through the kiss of Moshe at the end of Deuteronomy. And it's sort of like, so voice, word, action, kiss, and then you were born. And then as God, I'm still not so sure that you can get all of this stuff and believe all of this stuff. So I'm going to tell you, you're my witness. So what I've just done is spectacular, stupendous. And then you got to say, guys, this is real. This is the force and the power of God. Could there possibly be a person? I'm sorry.
A person who could.
Well, I mean, could there possibly? I am the one who split the sea.
Right.
There's proof that I have the power to do what I just said, for voice to word to commandment to action to kissing.
Right. In I see what you're saying now, and in the carefully constructed and rooted, grounded, bound narrative of the Bible to the rabbis, this is a tangible act. All of those people did experience that redemption from Egypt. So I, the one who did that, and the one who am doing this, and that connection is actually made in the first of the 10 Commandments as this revelation begins at Mount Sinai. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Okay, not I am the Lord your God, as many rabbinic expositions will begin saying. The Torah does not say, I am the Lord your God who created the heavens and the earth. That's too abstract. That's too conceptual. That's too poetic and too cerebral. We need something that smells a little bit more like the sea. something that feels a little bit more mortal, something that lives in my own personal lived experience and memory. And that's what we have here. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for bringing it out. Well, it's about time for us to close the book on this, but what?
Can you talk about what you're going to do next?
Yes, I think what we're going to do next as we continue with this larger theme of doors and doorways is explore the next liminal space, the next place where we find ourselves standing between here and there, namely between Mount Sinai and Rosh Hashanah, or Mount Sinai and Yom Kippur, and exactly what happens, or how it is that that traditions imagine this part of our journey in a cycle through the year. So we're going to stay really at Mount Sinai and even get to explore a little bit more about this ecstatic experience, and also maybe explore some of its more shadowy sides, its shadow costs as well. So that's what's coming up. That's what's coming up next.
So I just wanted to point out that 2 weeks from tonight is Shavuot. So we'll go to 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. And then I guess we'll do every 2 weeks after that.
Yeah, but I think I will try to help us take another step along the way on the night of Shavuot. I don't remember exactly at what hour I'm supposed to be teaching that night, but something will happen that night that will sound familiar or strike a familiar note and a familiar theme for you.
I just wanted to show you something. I think I can share the screen. Let me just try this.